Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's November 20th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and we finally got a little movement today, a little more volatility and a little more volume. We had a nice, it looked like we were going to be in a range day, and then we had this nice trend down, and we kind of bottomed out around lunchtime, my time, and which is Central Standard Time, for in case anybody's curious about what my time zone is. And we rallied from then, from that point on. Not nearly as strongly as we sold off, but we've taken maybe maybe 50%, a little bit more of that move back so far. So, and we're going, you can see we're right in the 3 o'clock hour, and they're probably forcing everybody to close their orders, and you can see how the market kind of reacted strangely there. You'll see that a lot of times right around 3 as everybody heads to hit the door before their um, broker kicks them out or whatever. So, but anyway, looked like it was going to be a range day. Turned out it wasn't. We had a nice little. We really the trend from yesterday, little downtrend, just continued on. Basically, is what we had. If you measured this on a bigger picture, you'd probably see there's 3 probably fairly equal legs down. But anyway, I'm going to back out here, and we'll talk about the trades and go from there. I'll back out a good bit so you can see this, but I wanted you to see the big picture first. You didn't get a whole lot of opportunity really this up move. We had a little bit of bounce right here right before the open, and then really we were just sideways here in a relatively tight channel. And one other thing, if you measure this channel, look for a measured move, you can see we basically got a measured move, a perfect measured move there. To the tick. And so not only do you try to measure the legs, you measure the width of and you can see that range is relatively clear right there. And we had a little failed breakout here, a failed breakout here, and then we moved up into the next level before we dropped back down. And it was really hard to, it's a shame that you couldn't really get in this short here, but you just didn't have a good chance because you can't go short into that support right there. It's just too dangerous, and you don't get another chance until way down here, and even then it's kind of questionable. So we'll talk about that when we get to it, but I wanted to show you the measured moves there first. 7 o'clock when I came in, 7 o'clock came on this bar right here, and notice you had a new low, first entry, second entry that failed, big bullish bar. I would probably you could drop a sell stop right there or buy stop right there, and it still would have worked. But as big as that bar is, what I would do is I'd let it break higher, and I'd drop a limit order a few ticks back in here, and you could have gotten filled way back in this thing actually. But I would have at least gotten a few ticks back just to get within that 8-tick rule and give you a little bit more room before these highs. And that would have been a nice, quick, easy scalp. And we pull back and get a little double test here, but not a very good signal bar. At this point, I was waiting on a higher low, which we get, but it's way up here. And again, you're right into the highs. And I just think it's too risky. You might argue for that to be green because we're probably going to get a leg similar to this one if we continue higher. So you measure that leg. From here, you look for a measured move, and you see we got that to the tick. And then prices just kind of started going sideways. So that's a possibility. I think it's really risky going long. Most of your resistance was right across here, and so this was a failed breakout, and this does look like a breakout pullback. You might even argue that maybe this goes right there, and then it looks like a breakout pullback, but you're still right into this high right here. So either way you draw that line, you really get the same thing. So, of course, there's a failed second entry short right here, and it broke lower and turned and went out the other side. I'm not going to take that way up here after that big move. You are looking for a measured move on up here, but your overnight highs are just right here, and you don't have a lot of room there. So I think you're better off to wait. And then notice what happens. You pull back first entry, pull back, and you get a second entry long right at the midline, right off the EMA. Big, nice bullish bar that traded way down here and ends up closing almost on its high. I like going long there. You got enough room to get out. Moves up, and notice how you made this high, and then you get a lower high here, and it actually broke higher and turned. And when it went out here, it was a second entry short. Notice that low. It's a new swing low. It's lower than that one. So first entry, and then when it broke lower right there, that's a second entry short, and you would have enough room. And you obviously you don't want to wait till this bar here and go short way down here. That ends up just being a trap. We run back up, and you get another second entry short right here. Fairly bearish bar. It's an up-down bar right there. The reason I made that one green is you really need to almost wait on a lower high. But this is a second entry short, and this is a failed break above all this resistance. It's probably going to fail. So with that being a second entry, you may want to take that. It's real close. You could argue for it. It's right there. It could be blue or green. But I think you would be better off if you got a lower high, and you just never get that. So I think that one's just a little bit aggressive. And now you get a failed breakout the low side. You could argue for that to even be green, being that far away from the EMA. But again, you're almost always better to wait on that high or low, and you never get one here. It just shoots right back. Just shoots right to the highs. So you don't get that opportunity here. But again, it's one, if you want to be aggressive, you might say, hey, I'm going to risk that back to the EMA, and in case it goes higher, that's an important low for the day. And then we run up. You make that high. This one is now you've got a high and another push higher, but again, you probably want to wait on a lower high, and you get one right here, but now you're kind of stacking up. That's a doji, and you're right into the EMA, so I don't think you can risk that one. But then it pulls back again, and now you got a second entry short, and you could look at that as a failed second entry long as well. But notice that low, first entry, second entry. So that's the better place to go short. Runs all the way down here and bounces on the original support. It's just a first entry. That's a pretty good move. There's actually two legs down right there. So you may risk that. Again, I think you're better off to wait on the high or low, and you never really get one. This would have worked. It's a fairly bullish bar. It is a bounce right off the original support. There is a little bit of distance between there and the EMA. So you may risk that one. This looked like a really nice setup here because you tried to go higher once, twice, and that's actually a second entry short, but it's right into that support right there. And you just can't risk that. Notice how it fails and comes back. And notice how we're making lower highs every time. That's a good signal or a good sign or clue that we're probably going lower. But you need a better setup than that, unfortunately. If you got a good signal bar here, this is just an inside bar. It's a little small bar, but it's just not a great setup. This is really your signal bar right here because it made the swing high. So, but that's where the downtrend started. So that's why my trend line is drawn right there. And notice you move down here and you come back first entry, second entry. That's a second entry short. It's just not a great signal bar. It's more bearish than it is bullish, and it is a second entry. It is off the key entry point. But it's just not a great signal bar. I marked it green. If you had a good signal bar there, by all means, you could argue for that to be red. But you can see my signal bar there, and it's almost a neutral bar. It's more bearish than it is bullish because it closes in the lower half, but just by a tick or so. So it's just not a very good signal bar on my chart. And then, of course, now you've been away from the EMA too long. and you don't want to be trying to pick a long in here. But notice that new low, first entry, you come up here and you get a second entry right there. This is really your signal bar, but this is kind of all equal highs here, and that's such a big bearish bar. What I would recommend here is if you let it break lower and you drop a limit order back up here one tick below this bar, or even one tick below the actual signal bar, and your stop has to go right there. So it actually has to go a tick higher than it normally would. And but otherwise, I like that trade. The market's been weak. We're right at the EMA, and it's struggled to go higher and to get that big a bearish bar. There's another little tick back right there, but you don't want to go short way down here. Same thing here. You're just getting too far away from the EMA not to have a trap or some kind of second entry or something a little better than that. And of course we bounce, and notice this is the perfect setup here. Pull back first entry, you continue higher. There's your second entry short right there, right at the key entry point. Nice bearish signal bar. Quick, easy trade. It bounces, then it bounces. Of course, draw your trend line, then it bounces again. Technically, that is the second entry long, and it is off what looks like a key entry point, but I'm going to go ahead and mark that green, and you could argue for it to almost be red, but I'm just not crazy about it because we really haven't had a break outside this trend channel line. We got to close out here, but we don't have a new low yet. But when we make this higher low, now I kind of like it because now you're going to have a failed second entry short if it breaks higher. And so when it broke higher right here, I like going long. There it goes. And then we kind of run sideways here. We just kind of get hung up in this sideways stuff. And then, of course, we come back and get a little failed break lower. It bounces right off the key entry point again. Again, you could argue the only reason this one is green is because it's an up-down bar. This is really an inside bar. If it had broke lower and then went out the other side, or even broke lower and ended with matching highs, I'd say you could probably make this red. I still like this trade though because it's that little failed break lower when the market looks like it's reversing, and that might be an important low. And sure enough, it was. You get a higher low right here, and that's a second entry, but it's right into the resistance. And then finally push through, pull back, and get a failed second entry short. And we actually broke lower there and then went out the other side. I like just having a buy stop right there, one tick above that bar. And then it's a really low risk entry, not much money in it. Normally on a range like this, I'd tell you you'd want to get some support up here and kind of wait and see that, make sure this is holding. But in this case, we traded up into this. We've already had a failure out the bottom, and we've already pushed out the top and pulled back. We're probably going higher. So I like the odds on that one. It's real close. You could argue for it to be green, but just based on the the price action read with this being sideways, with having traded up into it, and the fact that we had a failed breakout here, they've probably trapped some shorts. So carrying it, and you can see when that broke higher, anybody that got short in here, they all exited right up through here, and that's what drove it on up. And now you get an overshoot. It's tempting to want to go short right there, but that's the first. Actually, you did have a break outside that trend line right there, and you got a new high, and you're so far away from the EMA. But that's an inside bar. I'd wait on a lower high, and it comes right here. And big bearish bar, and you still got a long way back to the EMA. That's the better place to enter. And of course, that takes you into the 2 o'clock hour. You don't really get anything much after that. So you could argue you got a failed second entry long there, but that close to 2 o'clock, I wouldn't trade that. I'd want it to come back to the trend line. I'd want to see it get below the EMA anyway and be looking for a buy rather than another short here. We did have the overshoot, which sometimes leads to a reversal, but you want to see it push through that EMA and get some support underneath it on a trade like that when the market's been this strong, because it could give you a little fake out and go higher, which it ends up doing even though that short would have still worked, it still gives you a little fake out and goes higher. And continue to go higher and see what happens when it comes back to the trend line. This would have been the better trade. Of course, it's way after 2 o'clock, but that's what you're looking for. And look at it go again. So a little better trade again, a little better trading day today. As far as the trades, it's not that many more, but there's definitely more volume today, a little more volatility, some quicker and faster, longer moves. So it was a pretty good trading day. But I hope you had a good trading day. I hope you've had a good week so far. Well, believe it or not, tomorrow's Thursday and we're wrapping up another week. Seems like we just came back. But anyway, I'll be back again to do it tomorrow to wrap up our week. And I'll kind of get an idea of try to be thinking about what I'm going to do next week, if I'm going to take the whole week off. I'm just not sure yet what I want to do next week. I haven't decided. Anyway, I will let you know maybe tomorrow. If not, I'll let you know before Monday if I'm going to be gone Monday. But I'm going to wrap it up for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.